And they knew you were not going to be involved in a drive-by shooting in the white neighborhood. You were not going to do carjacking in the white neighborhood. They know that the more guns they put in your hand, you would begin to terrorize your own neighborhood. So it's guns and drugs and jobless men. Guns and drugs and pain-filled men. Guns and drugs and bitter, frustrated men. Guns and drugs and men with no creative mind. Guns and drugs and a man that is not really a man of his own destiny.
Many of the crises inside Black communities did not appear on their own. They formed through decades of targeted policy decisions, restricted opportunity, and concentrated poverty. When Mr. Farrakhan speaks about pain, loss of purpose, and manufactured self-destruction, he is pointing to long documented social patterns that scholars have written about for years. Researchers from institutions like the Brookings Institution and the Bureau of Labor Statistics have tracked how unemployment, neighborhood abandonment, and economic restructuring shape the lives of many Black men. This video expands on that context so the viewer understands the forces at play behind the words he delivered. Let's begin.
And brothers, you're tied up, but they have no more use for you. And in a society like this, when they don't have any more use for you, they program you for destruction. Now look at yourself. Look at yourself, brothers. Let's look. 30 years ago, white folk did not ever want to see a Black man with a gun. Right in the South, if you had a shotgun on your farm, white folk would be a little careful how they come around you, especially if you would use it. Because they know that thing hurts, kills. So you couldn't get guns. There was always a liquor store available to you, so that in your pain of not being productive as a man, and some of you don't even know why you're in pain, because your nature has never been explained to you. So you're in pain, don't know where the pain is coming from, don't know why you're in pain, but you're in pain because you're not productive. And no man can be a man unless he's productive. So that the alcohol man says, hey, brother, come on here. Take this for your pain. So you're a college professor, but you're in pain. Because you know, professor, something ain't right with what you're professing. You're teaching young people, and you know when they leave college, most of them will not be able to use what they spent 4 years in college trying to learn.
The idea that society assigns usefulness to groups of people and then discards them once they no longer serve an economic purpose has been studied for decades. Historians have shown how shifts in labor needs after the Civil Rights era shaped the environment that many Black communities faced. During the mid-20th century, Black workers were pushed into manufacturing centers that offered stable wages without requiring advanced degrees. When factories closed across northern and midwestern cities between the 1970s and the 1990s, entire neighborhoods lost their economic foundation. Researchers documented this collapse as deindustrialization. It produced long-term unemployment and reduced pathways to stable adulthood. Sociologists noted that when stable income disappears, social strain increases. Crime rises in places where opportunity contracts. The point about firearms availability connects to real historical changes. During the 1980s and 1990s, gun trafficking routes expanded across urban centers. Studies from the Department of Justice recorded an increase in the flow of unregistered guns into low-income neighborhoods. Access to addiction outlets also grew. Liquor store saturation in black neighborhoods has been documented by public health researchers who tracked zoning laws that allowed dense clusters of alcohol vendors. This cluster was not the same in white suburbs, where zoning boards imposed restrictions that protected residential zones. He also mentioned psychological pain. Research from the American Psychological Association confirms that chronic unemployment erodes self-worth because many men attach identity to productivity. This does not excuse harmful actions, but it explains the internal conflict many feel when they struggle to provide. Studies on college-educated black men show that higher education does not guarantee security. Many graduates enter fields with limited hiring for minorities. Others carry student debt that undermines the promise of advancement. The reference to using alcohol to cope aligns with well-established clinical findings. People experiencing economic stress are more likely to rely on substances to numb emotion. The professor he references symbolizes a man who appears successful on the outside, yet feels powerless inside. Sociological research on workplace inequality confirms that many black professionals face stalled advancement or racial bias in hiring and promotion. When a person teaches young students, while knowing those students may struggle to find work after graduation, the contradiction produces internal strain. The narrative he presents is not about individual failure. It reflects structural conditions documented across decades. Economic shifts, discriminatory zoning, targeted policing, flooded drug markets, and declining labor markets created environments where frustration, confusion, and substance abuse could thrive. Understanding these conditions is necessary if the community hopes to rebuild purpose and stability.
Preachers are sad men too. Because most of them read the Bible about a God, but he ain't real in their life when white folk come. You understand what I'm saying? You say you believe in God. God is your rock. But don't let white folk come to your house in the midnight hour. You start saying like they said, Jesus said on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because deep down inside, some of the most cowardly people are the people who claim to believe in God. You allow the flock to be eaten by the wolf, and the shepherd runs and hides and becomes an apologist for the wickedness of the slave master and his children. So preachers are unfulfilled too. And this is why sex is a major part of a preacher's life. Wait a minute. No. I'm not putting nobody down. Go ahead. I say, wait a minute. I know there's some good preachers. Don't misunderstand me. There are some very good pastors. But for the most part, it's too much talk among pastors about women and too little talk about serving the needs of the people that we are shepherd over.
The discussion about preachers and faith touches on a deeper historical issue. Black religious institutions have served as anchors for community survival since slavery. Churches offered education, leadership development, and political organization, yet research from the Pew Religion and Public Life Project notes a growing gap between religious authority and everyday experiences. Many congregations struggle with expectations that leaders must provide spiritual guidance, while also responding to violence, poverty, and institutional neglect. When results do not match sermons, some pastors experience emotional strain. This is not unique to Black churches. Burnout among clergy is documented across the United States. His claim that some preachers feel unfulfilled can be viewed through work conducted by sociologist C. Eric Lincoln, who studied the roles pastors play. Clergy often carry the burden of counseling families during crisis while facing limited resources. They are expected to project unwavering certainty even when they personally experience doubt. This mismatch between expectations and capacity creates emotional exhaustion. Research from Duke University's Clergy Health Initiative confirms that many pastors report high levels of stress. The tension between religious belief and real-world outcomes also appears in academic studies about cognitive dissonance. When a person proclaims faith in a higher power but witnesses injustice that remains unchallenged, internal conflict forms. This conflict can lead to retreat or silence. Historically, courageous Black clergy confronted injustice despite danger. Figures like Reverend Vernon Johns and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. challenged power at great personal risk. Yet many others faced threats from local segregationists, employers, or law enforcement. This fear shaped behavior and left some churches unable to act with strength. The mention of clergy preoccupied with power, validation, or desire reflects long-standing critiques inside Black communities. Scholars such as James Cone acknowledge that pastors sometimes struggle to balance spiritual mission with human weakness. This is not a condemnation of religion. It highlights the human condition within positions of authority. Farrakhan's broader point concerns leadership responsibility. If spiritual leaders abandon their duty to protect and uplift the community, the people lose a critical layer of support. This failure does not erase the many pastors who continue to serve with integrity. It simply acknowledges a documented reality that leadership can fracture under pressure. Understanding these issues allows viewers to appreciate the complicated relationship between faith, leadership, and survival in marginalized communities.
And do you know, brothers, when you're in pain, your brain releases hormones that actually can deaden pain. This is why you could lose an arm and sometimes don't even feel it because the trauma has released something from the brain, and when you look and your arm is gone, then pain. But before that, you didn't even know it was gone. That's how powerful the brain is. But when your pain is so great that you deplete what the brain can give to comfort you, and your knowledge is so weak that it can't fire the brain up to produce more of what you need in a traumatic time.
Pain is not only emotional, it shapes the chemistry of the brain. Medical researchers have established that the human body releases endorphins when exposed to trauma. These endorphins numb pain long enough for a person to survive immediate danger. The example of someone losing a limb without noticing it reflects real battlefield reports and emergency room cases. Soldiers and accident survivors sometimes continue functioning for a short period before feeling severe pain. Once the brain recognizes the injury, the body's natural pain blockers decrease and the full trauma becomes clear. This biological response becomes important when discussing long-term community suffering. Chronic stress weakens the ability of the brain to self-regulate. Studies from Harvard's Center on the Developing Child show that constant exposure to poverty, violence, or instability elevates cortisol levels. When these levels remain high for long periods, the brain struggles to produce the chemicals needed for emotional balance. This is called toxic stress. It affects memory, decision-making, and impulse control. Farrakhan's focus on depleted internal resources connects to this research. When a population experiences repeated crises without relief, resilience becomes harder to maintain. Knowledge also plays a role. Public health scholars have documented that individuals with fewer support systems or limited access to mental health services are more vulnerable to emotional collapse. The lack of resources in many Black neighborhoods, including therapy access, contributes to this breakdown. Education about emotional regulation helps people understand trauma. Yet many school systems serving Black students receive fewer resources. Data from the Department of Education shows that schools in predominantly Black districts often receive less funding. This funding gap reduces access to counselors and mental health programs. When people lack these tools, the brain relies more heavily on its natural coping mechanisms. Once those mechanisms are exhausted, emotional pain intensifies. Community trauma research also shows that suffering spreads across generations. Children growing up in environments with high stress often display signs of hypervigilance or emotional numbness. These reactions mimic the biological response described earlier. Without proper guidance, many young people interpret these intense feelings as personal failure rather than the result of structural conditions. The narration Mr. Farrakhan offers captures that downward spiral. It is not only about individual weakness, it reflects the overwhelming weight many communities carry. Structural neglect, insufficient healthcare access, and economic deprivation create conditions where internal emotional resources are constantly drained. By understanding the biological science behind trauma, we recognize that healing requires more than discipline. It requires stable environments, supportive institutions, and access to knowledge. Without these tools, suffering becomes embedded in the community's daily life.
Then here come the dope merchant. Hey, baby. Hey, try this. And we in so much pain, brothers. After a while, reefer gets to be punk stuff. When you graduate from reefer, you have never been able to afford cocaine like white folks use it, in the powdered form. So some of them went in a laboratory and developed a very inexpensive, chemically produced coke that immediately goes to the pleasure center of the brain. And one hit of it hooks you. Now that's really something. So now crack is flooding our community. And each of you as men know, the more pain you're in, the more drugs you use, your personality begins to get distorted. You're no longer the same person that you were when you were natural or in a natural state. You become an incessant liar. And after a while, your mother and your father become objects to you, not your real parents that you should have love and care and tenderness for. But you see your mother's fur coat and you take it. You see something of value, you take it. And if they try to stop you, you, in the sad state of your mind, would kill your own mother, your own father, your sister, or your brother. Now the black community is filled with pain and filled with drugs. Filled with pain and no power, now filled with guns. Mao Zedong said, power grows out of the barrel of a gun. So when you put a gun in a powerless young black man's hands, he got his hand on something now that gives him power. He's hungry for power. The nature that the Bible said God created him in, God gave him in the beginning power. But the white man took away from you power. Now you're trying to get it back, but you don't know how. So they sell you a gun.
The arrival of crack cocaine in black communities during the 1,980 seconds is one of the most documented crises in United States history. Researchers have shown that this drug spread rapidly because it was cheap, potent, and easy to transport. Reports from the National Institute on Drug Abuse describe how crack activates the brain's pleasure center in seconds. This creates powerful psychological dependence. Unlike powder cocaine, which required higher income to obtain, crack was marketed in small amounts that people in poor communities could afford. Historical investigations by journalists and scholars have revealed that crack distribution grew alongside major economic downturns in Black neighborhoods. When factories closed and jobs vanished, drug markets expanded. Many young men saw no path to stable income. Some turned to drug dealing as a survival strategy. The consequences were devastating. Crime increased, families were disrupted, and addiction rates rose sharply. Farrakhan's description of personality distortion aligns with clinical research. Long-term crack use damages the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for judgment and impulse control. This damage can produce erratic behavior, dishonesty, and emotional instability. Medical studies confirm that individuals struggling with addiction may harm loved ones because drug dependence overrides moral reasoning. Families across the country have reported these patterns, which mirror the behaviors he described. The spread of guns during this era intensified the crisis. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives documented significant increases in illegal firearms entering urban neighborhoods in the late 20th century. Dealers use guns to protect territory, and addicts sometimes use firearms during thefts. Researchers note that firearm proliferation in economically deprived areas increases homicide risk. Farrakhan's point about powerless young men seeking control aligns with psychological studies on masculinity and deprivation. When men lack stable income or social recognition, they may search for symbolic forms of power. A weapon provides an illusion of strength. This illusion often masks deep insecurity rooted in poverty and lack of opportunity. Sociologists studying youth violence in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Philadelphia reached similar conclusions. The mention of God giving man power at creation is theological language expressing a sense of lost purpose. In secular research, this loss is described as disconnection from social institutions. Employment, education, and community organizations are pillars that ground individuals. When these institutions fail, identity fractures. Many young Black men grew up in neighborhoods where these pillars had collapsed. Understanding this history is vital. Crack did not appear randomly. Guns did not appear randomly. They entered communities already weakened by policy failures and economic abandonment. Narration grounded in verified research shows that repairing this damage requires investment, opportunity, and healing resources. Without them, the cycle repeats. If you found value in this breakdown, take a moment to subscribe to Black Culture Unlocked and hit the notification bell. It helps the channel grow and ensures you never miss content that brings real truth, real context, and real history to the front. Your support keeps these stories alive, so stay with us and be part of the conversation.